Okay, so I really want to analyze the Dan Schneider apology video, just to see how disgusting this apology is, and I have already watched it, but I just want to go through it practically, because it is just strange, but I don't know. It's another one of those fake apologies you see on YouTube, but we'll see how it goes.
Hey, it's Boogie. I
Hey,
play
it's
Timo
Boogie.
in
That's
Nickelodeon's
bad
iCarly.
news when
I got a chance to
Boogie
watch
is
the
not
current
in the
episode's
iCarly reboot,
programming.
but
I
he
reached
is
out to
here with
Dan to see
Dan.
if it was something that he'd be willing to discuss. I'm pleased to say that he said yes.
I thought
Dan, how
Dan
are you?
Schneider
I'm
disappeared
okay. I'm okay.
after he was fired from
I
Nickelodeon.
really appreciate you reaching out and giving me the
He
opportunity
looks
to
like
talk to you
me
about
almost.
what we saw over the last 2 nights.
I'm really glad
He's
you're
very
here because I
skinny.
believe this is
That's
important.
what a
For
lot of
sure.
people are talking
We've
about.
got a lot of things to unpack. But before I dive into my list of topics that I'd like to discuss,
This could be
is there
edited into
anything
a
you'd like to
sitcom
start with?
episode.
Absolutely. Watching over the past 2 nights was very difficult. Me facing my past behaviors,
Facing my past
some of which
behaviors.
are
Okay, yeah,
embarrassing and that I regret.
it's a don't break
And
my
I
past
definitely owe some
thing.
people a pretty strong
Yeah,
apology.
Dan Schneider admits
Let's
his
talk about the
wrongdoings.
massages.
Okay.
Watching the content
Yeah,
yesterday, it was disturbing.
It was wrong. It was wrong that I ever put anybody in that position. It was the wrong thing to do. I'd
it was
never do it
wrong.
today.
Yeah, it was
I'm
wrong.
embarrassed that I did
Okay.
it then. I apologize to anybody that I ever put in that situation. And even additionally, I
Somehow this
apologize
is just so
to the people who were
laughable
walking
almost.
around Video Village or wherever they happened
Video
because there were
Village.
lots of people there who witnessed it who also may have
I
felt
looked it up.
uncomfortable.
Video
So
Village
I
is
owe them
placed in
apologies as well.
Maryland. It's one of the few remaining
Dan,
video
talk to
stores.
me about the writer's room. From what I saw, not
It's an
cool.
old
No,
radio.
no, and I don't mean to cut you off, but if I can cut right to the chase, let me just say, no writer should ever feel uncomfortable in any writer's room, ever. Period. The end. No
The thing
excuses.
I really like is he is admitting
Most
what he
TV
did was
writers, comedy
wrong, and
writers
he's
have been
really
in
feeling
writers' rooms and
sorry
they
for
are
it. But
aware that a lot of
still,
times there
I
are
don't think
inappropriate jokes made and inappropriate topics come up.
yeah.
But the fact that I participated in that, especially when I was leading the room, it embarrasses me. I shouldn't have done it. And I can tell you why it hurts really bad for me. I remember very clearly my early experiences, my first experiences
It makes
in
me
the
think of
entertainment business.
guilt that
I was
I
green,
have,
I was
but
scared, I was
mine,
excited.
my
It meant
past
the
is
world
not
to
as
me that I was getting these
problematic as
opportunities.
Dan's
And I
or
went in and I got
any
lucky
other
because they were great. My first couple of
problematic
experiences were
YouTubers.
fantastic. And the fact that the fact that I didn't pay that forward to every employee that walked through my
I was a
door,
bully. I wasn't a
it
pedophile.
hurts my heart because I should have, and I wish I could go back and fix that. In the writers' room, there's no doubt that sometimes those jokes went beyond the pale, and I said things that went too far or made practical jokes that went too far, and that was wrong. And that was because I was an inexperienced producer. I was immature.
Wrong.
Wouldn't happen today, but I'm just really sorry it happened.
Yeah. Now we know you've had a lot of success over 2 decades.
Apparently, I heard
Thousands of people
this
have worked with you for you. Let's
interview
speak
was
directly to the people
completely
who did not
staged.
have a good experience with you.
Okay, I would like to speak
Yeah,
to those people.
and the comments are
because
disabled,
I
by the way.
hate that
It's
anybody
too
works
late
for me didn't
anyway.
have a good time.
And Dan,
You know me.
Dan
You've been
Schneider,
on my
if you
sets.
copyright claim this video,
Look, I've had some employees
honestly, I
that
don't
worked
even
for me
care.
for 10 years, some more than 20 years, who would work with me again. But not everybody. There's still a significant number that didn't have a great time working for me. So my batting average isn't nearly high enough in that area. And the way they wouldn't get the best of me is that I would let the pressure of doing 40 or even more episodes per year, I would let that pressure get to me, which a good boss should never, ever do.
Was there specific things
Yeah,
that
I
you were
get
doing?
pressure like that a lot.
Sure, I would snap at people sometimes. I would be snarky when I could have given them a nicer answer. I would not give people the time that they
Oh my
needed.
god,
I
you
would
were
be in too
headfish.
hurry to get on to the
Grambling
next
Marsh.
thing I had to do. And watching that show, it made me. There were so many times I wanted to pick up a phone and call some of those
Chairs
people
look
and
uncomfortable.
say,
Sit
I'm so
in.
sorry and let's talk about it. And I wish you had a better time and I wish I could have shown you a better experience.
Yeah. Now,
By the way, another Hebrew Barney
you write
episode
hundreds of episodes,
had been
thousands of
uploaded.
jokes have
I'll
been
check
told.
that out later. And
But
it's a
currently,
season
where
2
we are,
episode.
some people think that some of those jokes are inappropriate for children. What do you think of that?
All these jokes that you're speaking of, that the show covered over the past 2 nights, every one of those jokes was written for a kid audience because kids thought they were funny and only funny. Okay? Now we have some adults looking back at them 20 years later through their lens, and they're looking at them and they're saying, oh, I don't think
The
that's
Quiet on the Set documentary really
And
that gained
I have no
so
problem
much
with that.
controversy,
If that's
especially when
how
the
anyone
5th
feels,
episode came out, which it was
let's
just
cut those jokes out of the show.
the same
Just like
as
I
the
would have
first
done
4,
20
just
years
with
ago or 25
some
years
new
ago.
stuff.
Just cut it. I want my shows to be popular. I want everyone to like. The more people who like the shows, the happier I am.
Yeah.
So if there's anything in a show that needs to be cut because it's upsetting somebody, let's cut it.
So I think it's big for you to say with your work, if it's
If they're gonna
today,
continue the show,
you
they
don't
should
have a
just talk about
problem.
Cut it. Cut it.
maybe
I mean,
other
that's a
stuff, not
solution.
just
The last
Nickelodeon,
thing I want to ever do is put any content
maybe
on a show
Disney Channel or
that's gonna
Weinstein
upset
Company.
my audience and make them want to turn off the TV. Why would I ever want to do that?
That makes sense. I want to give you an opportunity to kind of elaborate on something.
Okay.
The thought process from the series is you had the power to just write a joke, and no matter what, it's going on TV. You just had that type of power.
I don't know
Is
if
that
people
true?
can snap their
The
fingers
notion
like that.
That I had the power to just produce whatever I wanted.
My
and
snaps
have
are
it
so
hit
quiet.
Is completely false.
Okay.
There were many, many levels of scrutiny. Okay, we had executives in LA. We had executives in New York.
So two coasts.
Two coasts
Okay.
of
Both
approval. Yes, and by the way, approval at every stage, really.
Okay.
And I'm talking about wardrobe. I'm talking about makeup, sound, sets, dialogue,
Approval. Oh my
jokes,
God.
everything.
Now, when you say approval, these obviously that's a hierarchy, not your colleagues or
Right.
people in the room. Okay.
No, not my colleague. No, these are my bosses.
Who would
Bosses,
allow
and then
that?
Their bosses and then their bosses, and they're approving all of this stuff.
Okay.
Okay. And we're also shooting it in front of all sorts of adults and caregivers and the set teacher and the families. Everybody's watching it. And if anybody had said anything,
Parents do
hey,
enable
like,
that kind of
that's
stuff
not appropriate. It
sometimes.
would have been cut out.
My
Now,
parents
I'm
do.
gonna push back a little bit
Sure.
because the series painted you in this way that you were just the guy that was doing what he wanted, and people were afraid to confront you about things. So say,
I think really
just
the time I
say that
realized
was
that
the
all
case.
these
What would have
jokes
been
and
the
stuff
ultimate way
are just
to-
wrong. That was
If
when I
nobody on the set,
started
all
watching
of the
All
dozens and
Dogs Go to
dozens of
Heaven.
adults
I really
that were
had
on the set,
some sort of
if they didn't say anything,
like
if my bosses said
thing,
if they insisted, you gotta make
not really a
change here, you gotta
downward
cut that.
spiral,
I
like
had
kind of
to
like
do
the
it. I had no
opposite. I
choice.
don't know what it's
Got
called.
it. Now, this
And
next
it,
one,
watching
it kind of hit close to home.
the
Being
Dan
a
Schneider shows, I
father,
did get a bit
wouldn't be
concerned,
opposed to
especially
my
when I
child
watch
being in the
Game
entertainment
Shakers.
industry. Doesn't matter what age. Yeah. Seeing some of those on-air dares.
On-air dares. I don't
Seen it
think I
now
remember the
from
on-air
where you are
dares.
now in your life.
That's
What do
like the
you think
only
of
thing
I think that
from
some of the on-air dares
the
went
early
too far.
Nickelodeon
I think
I
they pushed the
have not
envelope too
watched.
far. Not all of them.
Even
not most of them, but some
the
did.
All That show,
Nickelodeon
I watched
did their
one
version
episode and that
of Fear
freaked
Factor.
me out.
At the time we were
Not
shooting
for
all
the
that, so I was
disgusting
tasked with doing these on-air
perverted
dares and all that
stuff,
jazz.
but for
So
other
we'd get
stuff
with
as
the
well.
writers and we'd come up with all these ideas,
It
and
was
it's
very
hard to
weird,
do
but
because we
then
don't have a
watching
budget for
each
a character,
episode,
and we can't put the kids in dangerous
especially
situations
from
like the
season
adults
7
put in.
through
So
10
it was hard
of All
to,
That,
hard to come up with stuff.
I
But
can't
we'd come up
believe
with
they
all these
aired
ideas of
them on
dares they
TV.
could do. We
And
would
when they
talk
started
about it,
rerunning
and
the
yeah,
show
and they
late
would say,
night on
"Tell us
the
the
Teen
ones that
Nick
were okay,
channel, they
those are
didn't
the
air
ones we
those
shot,
episodes
those
at
are the
all,
ones
and
that
they're not available on
At the
streaming
time,
or anything.
I had no indication that any kid ever had a problem with them. But when I was watching the show over the past 2 nights, I now know that there were kids who did have
There
problems
was
with
an
the
on-air dare where
It
someone
freaks me
had
out.
to
And I'm so
put
sorry.
a
I am so sorry
scorpion
to
in
any
their
kid
mouth.
who
I was
ever
like,
had to
how is that
do
even
a
safe?
dare or anything that they didn't want to do or weren't comfortable doing. We went out of our way to make sure they were safe and that everything was done properly. But if a kid was scared and didn't want to do it, kids shouldn't have had to do it.
Yeah.
Period. The end.
Right.
And if I had known at the time, I would have changed it.
Technically,
on the spot.
it wasn't really
Now, we
about
also saw the
Dan
series
Schneider.
highlight
It was
two
about
former writers' views,
other
two
stuff,
women
like
who
Brian
spoke
Peck.
about a wage discrepancy. Now, I know that you don't divvy out salaries. Talk to me about that part.
Well, you're correct. I have nothing to do with paying writers. I never have. I've never made a writer's deal. And of all the writers I've been in a writer's room with, I never even knew how much most of them were getting paid.
Yeah, but we saw these two women who were writers for you sharing.
I know
one
being a writer
salary.
was
How
so
does that
tough.
happen?
It's very simple. There's a common
Because I
practice
write
in
like
Hollywood
fan
when hiring
fictions,
writers.
but I
You
did
have
kind
a
of
spot
stop
for a new
because of
writer.
the fan fiction drama.
Sometimes you'll go to 2 writers and say,
That's
"Hey,
a whole
give me
other
2 new
thing.
writers for your first
It wasn't
job.
like a
We're
higher
willing to
up,
share a salary. You can both have the job."
tormenting
They
me.
have
It
the
was
opportunity to say,
just
"Yes, that sounds
some
good,"
random
or, "No,
bully.
thank you." In this
Actually,
case,
a
it was
bunch
2
of
women
random
writers.
bullies.
I've done another
Death
show
threats also.
where that teaming was done with 2 male writers, and they split a salary. I did another show where it was a male and a female writer, and they split a salary. So
And these are all first-time writers.
all first-time writers looking for their first gig.
Got it. Now, in the series, they also highlighted 2 black actors who said that they felt overlooked. Now, I want to be clear. I'm never going to speak on anyone else's journey. Yeah? I can talk about my experience, how
Well,
my
of course,
experience was with you,
Tebow is
what I
like
saw
talking about
prior
it.
to working with you. But again, I don't
Like,
want to
yeah,
speak on
I don't want to like
anyone's
say
journey.
anything or
I
assume
saw
anything
you
about
be honored
Boogie,
for
but like, yeah,
diversity in your work.
Yes, and the reason for that is diversity has always been very important to me in my shows.
this could be
You go
made
back
into
to
an
the very
audiobook.
first Nickelodeon show I ever made, that's very evident, as it is in the second one, and then the first movie I ever made for Nickelodeon, which starred Keenan and Kel, and every show I did after that had a lead black actor in it. I'm very proud of that. It's very important to me. And not only am I proud that they were in my shows, I'm exceptionally proud of the achievements they've had beyond my shows, and they've gone on to bigger and better things, and that gives me a great sense of pride.
Well, something that really kind of bothered me was how they depicted your relationship with the cast.
Yeah, it bothered me too.
Yeah, just me being there, I knew the dynamic was
like this
trust.
brings up
I
a lot of
understood
like
that in situations
bad
where they may
user
have had
vibes,
turmoil,
like
whether it be
generic
with their
bad
families,
user
whether it be
tropes,
other
like
castmates,
wherever they tell
it
you
can't
don't
be
bring up
you.
my past, like
Versus
because
how
they
they
just
made
had
you
like really
look. With
problematic
that
past
said,
that they should have been held accountable
Amanda
for.
Bynes was brought
And
up in
like
the series,
like
and
all the
her
bad users do
emancipation,
videos where they
and how
say
you
admitting
were
my
involved in that. Can you
wrongdoings,
talk to us about
and
that?
the
Sure.
wrongdoings usually
Amanda was
are
between the
some
ages of
very
16 and
disturbing
17,
and sickening
and she
crimes
wanted to
and
get
sins that
emancipated
they
from her
do.
parents, which is a
That
fairly common
I'm
thing
honestly
with
so
successful
surprised
young
they were
actors,
not held
at
accountable
least at
for
the
at
time.
all.
And she wanted that for herself. So she turned to her team, which included her lawyer, her agent, her
Like,
manager, her publicist, me, because she included me as part of her team, thought of me that way. We supported her. She tried to get emancipated. It ended up not working out. She didn't.
Well, since we're here, let's stay here for a moment. There was also an incident
Yeah,
where
yeah. Let's just assume
ran away from
Amanda
home.
Bynes like
Yes.
went crazy for like another
Can you
reason.
talk to us a little bit, just to clear the air of exactly what happened in that situation?
I don't know.
Yes. One night, it
I've
was
heard
very
the
late,
theories.
well
She
after
had like a
midnight,
chip
1 or
in
2 in
like
the
her
morning,
head
the phone rang.
that just
I
made her
answered.
like
It
go
was Amanda.
insane.
She was upset. She was in distress. She had had some conflict with her parents, I think her father, and she called me. I was immediately concerned about her safety. I called someone who I knew was fairly nearby. That person was able to go and pick her up. Then I knew she was safe. I felt better. She ended up being
That
taken to
person.
the police.
Well, regardless of what some
That
people
person
may
made her
think,
go insane.
I think it's only positive that you are there for people when they need you. That said, let's talk about some of the things that have just been swirling forever.
Okay.
You were banned from your set.
Never happened.
That's a
That is
reference to
false
I'm glad
rumor.
my mom
What
died, I'm
Add it
pretty
to the
sure.
list of false
Talk to me.
rumors.
What
He was
happened?
not banned from the set
They
because
were
I've seen him on the
adult
set on like
actresses at the time,
behind the scenes
and they
clips
had
and
their
pictures
own
of like Henry
specific
Danger and
reasons
Game
for
Shakers.
not wanting to do the show anymore.
And like
I'm
yeah.
not judging that.
Of course,
It
like
got tense.
Madison
And what they
Shipman,
don't
who
know
played a
maybe
character on
is
Game
I
Shakers,
did
talked
everything I
about
could to make that show
how
go away. My producer
her
partner
experience
at
with
the time,
Dan was more
we would call
positive.
and
I mean,
say,
I don't
"This
really
is not
know
a good
like
situation."
if he
So I
did try to
decided
clean
I
up
would
his
do what
act
most
when those
showrunners
two
do,
shows were made.
which is you're not on the set.
Like,
Doesn't
but then
matter.
you
You're
watch
there
like
to
Game
shoot it.
Shakers.
I'll go
There's
up to the
way
writers'
too
room.
many
I'll look them in the
innuendos.
script book
Like you're
because
like,
everybody
how
was
did
so
this even
used to me
air?
caring about every detail of every show so much. For me not to be on the set, yeah, maybe some people thought I got banned.
So it was more of an assumption because
An
this
assumption.
guy's usually here and now he's not.
I don't know if it was an assumption. I don't know if somebody thought they were making me look bad by saying I got banned from the set. I have no idea.
Okay.
All I know is I was never banned from the set.
Yep.
Yeah,
The
sure.
darkest part of this series discuss child predators. Now, I want to make sure that we
Uh-oh.
clear a couple of things up.
Okay.
Predators.
Brian Peck was not hired by you.
No,
What?
I did not hire Brian Peck.
This was a Tolan Robbins production.
I can so like believe that because like Brian Robbins is such an enabler.
I was
Like
more devastated by that.
so,
than
like,
anything that's
honestly,
ever
like,
happened
yeah.
in my career thus far, and I told him, "I'm here for you. What do you need?" Which Drake mentioned in the show that we watched last night. And next, I heard that he went to court when this guy was being tried, Peck. And when Drake walked in, he saw 50 people sitting on the side of the courtroom.
What? Calm
supporting
down.
him. A lot of them
I'm
pretty
not.
famous.
I'm not pausing this time.
Of course, Drake was devastated that that happened.
You'll hear Lulu's
And
coughing.
even more disappointing,
Lulu, do you not
40
like
more
it?
of
Is
those
it too
people
sad?
wrote letters
I mean,
for Peck, character letters, praising him for
I
who
don't
he
know how to
was
get
and
her to stop. Like,
asking for
I'm really
leniency,
tired
and
of
they
her
knew
messing up my
that he was
videos.
guilty. They
I'm
knew
really
he had
sorry.
confessed to some degree, and they still
Now I'm
did
sounding
this.
like Dan Schneider.
It's That's baffling that adults would do that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, like so many
I
people
don't know if people
supported
know
it.
this,
Brian
but
Peck,
Drake's mom, a lovely
and
woman who I stay in
like I'm
contact with
just
this
so
day,
shocked
she
they
came to
didn't
me at the
even
time
know like
and
the
she said,
context really.
Dan,
Like
I'm
they
not
kept
good
like
with words like
Hollywood
you are.
crime so secretive back in like
Would you
the
help
early
me with my
2000s. Please
speech
be
for the
quiet.
judge? And I said, of course. And I
Oh my
did.
god, he's crying.
And he ended up going to prison and serving his time. And yeah, that was probably the darkest part of my career. And here's the kicker that I really don't get. After he got out of
He
prison
was on Disney
and
Channel
was,
show.
to my knowledge, a registered sex offender, he was hired on a Disney Channel show.
Yeah, Disney Channel's so like wholesome. I mean, they might have
I don't
some
understand that.
behind the scenes controversy, but like they hired
I
him
never.
like they didn't even know he was a registered sex
I
offender,
appreciate you sharing that, man. Are you
and
okay?
I'm
You
like,
wanna take a minute?
Yeah,
why? How?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. Okay. I think we really unpacked some important things. We set the
like
record
how
straight
did
on a lot of things.
Disney allow him?
Before I let you get out of here, I appreciate the vulnerability that you use in knowing that
Vulnerability.
there's
Oh
definitely
my
things
god.
that you would have and should have done differently. Is there anything that we haven't discussed? Anything that if
They
you could
kept
go
like
back and
such
navigate
crimes
their,
like
the
a
journey
secret in
differently,
Hollywood for the
what would that
longest
look like?
time, and even like now they still do.
Yeah, there's definitely things that I would do differently. One that I think would be really, really important is when you're hiring young actors, minors, to work in television, I would suggest that we have a licensed therapist there to oversee that process.
Yeah,
For the
that
specific reason
does seem fair.
of making sure that those kids really wanted to do this job, that they really wanted to be on television. Maybe they should even be informed about what that means. What's it going to mean if you're famous? What's that going to mean on social media? What's it going to mean within your family? Let them find out. And then that way, if a kid doesn't want to be on a TV show, they can opt out.
Yeah.
That psychologist, that therapist could come to us and say, this kid doesn't want to do it, or their parents aren't understanding of what's going to come. And then we could avoid the mistake of ever putting a kid in a TV show that didn't want to be there. And additionally, the main thing that I would change is how I treat people and everyone.
Wow.
I definitely at times didn't give people the best
Unnecessary
of me.
redemption
I
arc.
didn't show enough patience. I could be cocky and definitely
Like every like
ambitious,
anime movie
and
nowadays.
sometimes just straight up rude and obnoxious, and I am so sorry that I ever was. And all right, when I watched
Why is the
show,
quality
I
looking
could
like
see
that?
the
Why is it
hurt
looking like
in some
an old
people's
VHS
eyes,
tape?
and it made me feel awful and
Dan,
regretful
your jacket,
and
it's like
sorry. I
it's
wish I could
like
go back, you know,
moldy.
especially
The
to
tape
those
is moldy.
earlier years of my career, and
I hate
bring
moldy
the
tapes.
growth and the experience that I have now, and just do a better job, and never ever feel like it was okay to be an asshole to anyone ever.
The like the
Look,
glitchy shirt.
I wanted
It's
to make
reminding me of
funny
like
TV
this freaking
shows
like
for kids, and we definitely
Joe
did that.
Scruggs video, but
But if I
like
could go
I don't
back,
know. I'd
I
rather
would
not
get it done
compare
different
that.
ways. I'd just be nicer as often as possible.
Yeah, I like try to
Listen
be
more to the
nicer
people on my
too.
team.
But like there
And
are some times where I
I would do
do lose my
everything
stuff.
that I
Like
could to
yesterday,
make sure that everyone had
when
a good
someone told me to
experience.
stop talking about drama, and like I
That's what
did
I
it
do
kind of like they didn't just
Man, I
tell me to
appreciate
stop
your
talking about
time.
drama. They told me
I
I suck
appreciate you.
and like
Thanks for stopping by, man.
other
Thank
stuff.
you.
They said rude stuff to me. Like I'd rather not go into it right now. But like yeah, well that was something. Like yeah. The only thing I really wish for Dan is that he will actually let go of his past, unlike every like generic bad user ever. Like yeah, like I don't want like this to keep happening, really. Like all the generic like people on YouTube say don't bring up my past. They're just very rude about it when people do bring up their past, and a lot of times they're still living in the past. So yeah. But yeah, thank you for watching. I'll see you later.